So the topics for today, and before I start with topics, I thought I would I didn't put this in the last minute thought, but um, I'm looking at my iPad here. So the in the energetic synthesis latest newsletter, she was talking about the fact that we entered Taurus, right? Constellation Taurus in 13th sign astrology, which is different than the 12 sign zodiac astrology. And so Taurus is runs from about May 14th to June 19th. And the alchemical theme is congelation and transformation. So the part that I wanted to kind of just mention is congelation, I guess, is about crystallization. Taurus is the sign of the bull, the earth sign, so very grounded and very raw, like present on the planet. And the crystallization I thought was a good reminder in a sense because um, in this phase we're crystallizing. We're crystallizing the changes that we've been feeling internally and bringing it into matter. And it made me aware of even some of our thoughts and things that we don't may not want to crystallize into this new form, and it made me aware that to that I need to make more efforts when I have some of those negative thoughts running to flip it. um, so just putting that out there, and not that we're going to be perfect at this. It's going to be a process. We're all going to go through different various stages of dissolution and congelation, or crystallization. So it's going to come up again, and just so that we don't beat ourselves up that you didn't do it, you didn't make it today. So you got upset and you started, swearing or whatever you needed to do in that moment, because I feel like kind of beating yourself up too much also kind of defeats the whole process, where then you can spiral into that sense of guilt, and then it makes it difficult to kind of get yourself out of that. So just bringing that up. That's where we are right now. The alchemical theme is congelation and transformation. So we're going to do a little bit of a snapshot view overview since 2017 in the Planetary Synthesis series. This is what Sammy started showing me back then a bit more. So I'm going to go through a little bit about that. So that is what's enabling us to change density and have easier access to our soul and embody soul, and begin to, let's say, crystallize into a less dense body, actually. And so from that, our perceptions are going to start to change, and we're going to start to question, if not already, questioning more beliefs that we had, even of spirituality from the past. I'll talk a little bit about this first breath or emanation that happened 950 billion years ago, and how I came to that, and also more from Samantha on human genetic history, which she said was actually seeded 47 billion years ago, and the galactic root races of our DNA that was developed in other star systems. Plants were also cultivated on other planets, and the plants facilitate the powerful potential to activate our genes for continued ascension and alchemy. So zero equals abundance. She's been showing me the birth of the quantum field and applying a new perspective of zero across our many platforms which use zeros and ones. So the meditation is going to focus on facilitating the dissolution, healing, and clearing of all that's needed to empty out through the waves of forgiveness that's transmitting from way out, let's just say, and embody wisdom of all the lessons that accesses through the true zero of pure quantum potentials to co-create new foundations in accordance with each of your soul missions. So that's the overview. And this is what, and I think, Heather, you're joining these planetary synthesis things that I had to do in starting July 2017. I had really no idea what I was doing. You know, I was like, okay, I'm being told this is what I need to do. That's what got me started on doing recordings and, you know, starting to get comfortable talking in these presentation kind of things. So it was kind of throwing me out there into the world in a sense. So I remember, so these are some snapshots from the July 2017 Planetary Synthesis recordings, which are on YouTube if anybody wants to look at it. I wasn't quite clear on everything that was happening, so maybe some of my interpretations may not be completely accurate, but that's okay. That was my perspective then. So this was one of the things that she began saying, we're moving to the next harmonic universe. We're moving to the next harmonic universe. And earlier in the year, like January, February 2017, I started seeing like these massive pillars coming down, you know. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, what that's all about, but these pillars coming down. And then Samantha had handed me these spheres in 2016, I remember. And I said, well, what is that? She said, you know, it's the 16th, 17th, and 18th dimensional chakras. I was like, okay, that connects into dark matter. So then in July, then this portal opens, and she called it the is not space, which is like dark matter, where, you know, our world, the mirror image, or the photo negative in a sense of our world is mirrored from dark matter. It's created in dark matter first in a sense, and then it comes into the light, the visible, what we call the visible, and then Katya, the dragon of dark matter, coming through. And you know, I remember that this was one of the most intense moments Samantha had. We were on a drive, and it's the first time she started banging her head into the window of the car, and I had to pull over. And this is kind of what I was seeing, was this pillar being being put into our world, so to speak. And then the autists were showing me like this oval as going around the first harmonic universe, you know, and it was like, so to prepare it to move or be adjusted. I'm not sure what the right word is. Some people don't think it moved, you know, but I was seeing something immense happening at that time. And I know Lisa Renee was kind of talking about a similar kind of thing. And we had joined the energetic synthesis in January of 2017 because she was kind of talking about similar kinds of things that that nobody else seemed to be talking about. So, and this was kind of just showing at that time how Samantha came through. So if this was linear time, she came in from what we would call the future, to be able to then kind of go backwards in time from the future to enter this dense first harmonic universe. Oops, I want to go back. And she came in as a Pleiadian, a future Pleiadian, which it sounds, I think they were already like ascended Pleiadians by then, but she came in the future because the vibration was close enough for her to be able to come in that way. And then she kind of went backwards in time from the future to get to this point, to be able to then come into a denser body in the now, so to speak. And we're just then converging to this point, and everything is spiraling up now, and spiral time is opened up, so to speak. So that was kind of my understanding at that time. So, you know, once I was talking to Lolita, like when the first harmonic universe moved um, to the level of the second harmonic universe, and that was completed by 2018. And it's like, well, what happened with all of that? And we've been seeing what's been happening with all of that. So we've been receiving all kinds of uh, different downloads and codes of creation, dragons coming in because um, because of that move. And so it was preparing us at higher dimensional levels um, to now come to this physical level of really affecting our physical matter. So it's almost like we needed this time period in the last 6 or 7 years, which was intense at times and difficult, but it was because of the level of cosmic and new information, new dragons, all of it that was coming through at the time, that was coming through until now. And so I know I shared this image once before, a few months ago, but this was something Sammy showed me, I think last winter or fall, that this is what it looks like now. It's not, it used to be where the first harmonic universe was maybe here, and then the second harmonic universe kind of around that, and the third harmonic, and the fourth harmonic, and there were more, the zones between these harmonic universes was, let's say, more tighter. There was like a definite zone which gave it more definition in a sense, and now everything is more kind of fluffy. It's not, the transitions between harmonic universes are even barely there. So and there is like a one first, second, third dimension in a sense, but it's less dense, and it's wrapped with this second harmonic universe now. And the third harmonic universe is easier to access, and it's easier, then it's why it's easier to access our oversoul, which is at the 8th dimensional level and at the level of the high heart. So I know I've seen some posts like in Facebook from other people saying that people, their monads are going to drop in much faster, much easier. It's going to be like a walk-in all of a sudden. Their higher selves, like their higher selves are suddenly dropping in. So to me, this is why it's happening like that. And so then even the fourth harmonic universe is easier to access our avatar selves. And then we have the fifth harmonic universe. It's still, there. And then the sixth harmonic universe, which would be like dark matter. So all of that is easier to access, and this is why it's easier to embody. So yeah, I think just said all of that. So enables us to begin vibrating higher. People are talking about, it's all going to be about soul living, so facilitate soul embodiment, access easily. We can easily access streams of God consciousness or source to change our reality. And now finally to change density. And this is where we are today. And so our perceptions are going to change. And our eyes are doing a lot of adjustments because our eyes are meant to perceive. And also then our third eye is changing rapidly as well. So a way of looking at it, the analogy that I was given was like if we were, when Hubble telescope was put into space, and then the lens, there was a lens that was not positioned correctly, and then they finally went out and fixed the positioning of the lens in the Hubble telescope, and then suddenly they got a different view, a much clearer view of space. So it's kind of like that to me, that we're not seeing from the same lens, and so it feels like we're going to be asking more questions about even old teachings about spirituality, if that's true. And there are some foundational elements that we're probably going to continue to take with us, but some maybe not. We're also going to be experiencing our galactic selves and galactic lives, perceiving history and timelines differently, because now we have a clearer lens. So this is part of being on that level with the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions. And from the perspective of continued ascension and evolution, there'll come a time when we'll change density again to the level of the seventh and eighth and ninth dimensions. And we'll make another perceptual shift again. So it's just kind of bearing in mind that our perceptions are going to change, and accepting that, and understanding that what we see today is what we see. And in a future timeline, they're going to see it differently again. And it's part of a natural process, is what I'm trying to convey, to not make anybody right or wrong, but accepting that new people, it could be the new children in 10, 20 years that say, well, even what I'm saying today, it's all, you didn't get this part right, or this is, you could have said this is, we have a different perception on that. So this kind of understanding those kinds of changes, and that it's part of the evolution. We've been talking about this book off and on, The Human Genetic History, from Samantha, which came from, I think it says Messier 2041, I think. So we've been kind of talking about this. So it's not going in linear order, as you can see, because sometimes I talk a little bit about this, and then the next time I talk a little bit about this. So now she's going back to sort of the beginning, choosing the genetic seed codes. And this, in a sense, is the genetic seed codes of the human that we have right now. And I'll talk more about it in the next slide. But we've talked about like traveling through consciousness corridors, meaning like sun, as a soul, we're like a sun. And with these genetic codes, the consciousness corridors would be like the emanation through what we might call the grid, kind of like a grid system, or channels, corridors, if you can imagine that these are what the grid system is like at various different levels. There's the solar, there's the galactic, there's the universal, and then even like a cosmic network, in a sense, that souls have been traveling through. So genetic markers, then we leave genetic markers on different planets and different coordinates along that sort of grid network of verticals, horizontals, and diagonal channels. And then there are some star seeds in indigo that are cross bearers, so they mark the intersection points of those of that grid network, so to speak. And so part of the process of ascension and healing distortions is about marking these, like we're marking where the distortions are. And this is an important phase that we've entered. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide or so. But even through what we witness, our eyes, we're drawing attention, bringing energy to that distortion, and distortion that at various levels. So now we're getting the actual genetic seed codes. What Samantha is what she was showing me just a couple of weeks ago. So the genetic seed codes, they were created by the founders or earliest expressions of God's source in a trinity or tri-wave pattern, which included sound tones and waves, pulses of breaths, their geometries, which enables a coherent pattern to form and is harmonized in tune with the all. So those would be our God seeds. And she's saying that this particular human seed was created by the founders approximately 47 billion years ago. And it has a particular function. So this particular seed codes or blueprint was created to alchemize and heal all distortions, thought forms, emotional terrors, and so forth. So this is the human design of what we're supposed to be doing. Thus, the DNA or genetic blueprint was developed on several planets across the galaxy, and the Earth is designed to house all the galactic races that is part of the blueprint to alchemize and heal all distortions. So the ascension is, and the evolution is to continue to develop the human body, so to alchemically heal all these distortions is what it comes down to the back to the point when there were no distortions and no fallen anything at that time of creation. So this is what we're here to do. So we're in a process of transcending our 3D physical matrix, and which has been a great deal of distortion and inverted systems. The challenge has been to awaken enough to see and understand this, and to see how the 3D game of extreme polarity and ego has kept us blind to understanding who we truly are and what we're here to do. And, it kind of feels like even this last 6,000 years, I mean, it started many thousands of years, tens of thousands of years before, to kind of stop this ascension and evolutionary process. But and these last 6,000 years has probably been the most challenging. So this now we're kind of being brought back on track. And we might even say, well, we co-created this last 6,000 year epoch for a particular reason, since we all, as souls, some may agree or not agree, we all participate in the creation of our reality, co-creating our reality. So in that perspective, it's more kind of owning our power, that, okay, we've been there, we've done that, and now we get to say we're done with it as a collective. So to facilitate the ascension process, the founders contributed, for lack of a better term, different aspects of their seed codes. So even these early founders now, like, I kind of see them as these different geometric patterns that have eyes, the very early founders. So that was kind of interesting. So our sensory system becomes more sensitive, adaptations to our vestibular and proprioceptive systems, and our eyes in particular, at this time. And Heather, you probably know more about that vestibular and proprioceptive systems, right? I don't know if you want to say anything about that or type it, but the vestibular system, right, has to do with our you want to add anything? You want to, Heather?
Hi. Are you talking about just
The general
physiologically what it
definition of
is or
vestibular,
anything I've noticed?
or just, yeah, just in general about vestibular and proprioceptive system, what the definition is.
So vestibular would be mostly what people think of their middle ear is, but it's also contributed to by the proprioceptive system. So it's kind of what keeps you upright in space, let your body know which way you're tilting, and it goes and tells all the muscles on the other side that, hey, we need to kick it up so we don't fall over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
adjust.
and the proprioceptive, just like the internal senses in the joints that are saying, hey, we're leaning this way or that way, and you're getting reactions from the ground forces and gravity and all of your other senses as well to
Mm-hmm.
contribute to your awareness of where your body is in space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you have a general awareness or a description of what you see in the quote the autistic individuals?
Ah, well, and to me, it amazes me that they have as good of a wherewithal about their body and space as they do. They tend to, I'm amazed that they tend to walk on time, maybe just a little bit late, but they usually don't send them to me because they walk fine. In fact, they're climbing the walls and,
Oh,
over
uh-huh.
the desks and taking off on the playground equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But the safety factor is the thing usually is because they're not necessarily going to recognize that, hey, there's a 6 foot drop there and you shouldn't walk off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I always feel like they're just kind of somewhere up behind their bodies somewhere, but not necessarily looking through the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good description, not necessarily looking through their eyes, or they perceive differently, and they have a different awareness of where their body is in space. It's like they're not experiencing the same space that the 3D human mind has been trained to be
Yeah.
in. Yeah, yeah, I've definitely seen that with Samantha. And yeah, if I could share anything in particular, and probably our eyes work with all of that as well. And um, I think the neurotypical people, as we make this adjustment, are going to have to adjust to where we are in space, because it's almost like the autistics. They're aware that they're in space, but they may be more aware of the galactic space, or the universal space. So
Oh,
it's
right.
like,
Yeah. What our definition of space is here
yeah,
in this. Yeah.
a 3D
In the
world
classroom is
versus,
a little bit different than they're like, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
wider purview of what that is.
yeah, yeah. So that's my sense of it now. If I'd known this maybe even 10 years ago, I think that might have helped me a bit more with Samantha. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's like they're not in this, they don't see the same space that we're in. They're not experiencing um the same thing. So
Is that
yeah.
why they love the like bouncing and like the turning type of toys that we have and bouncing on the therapy ball and all that? It gives them more proprioceptive input from the physical body.
I
It
think
seems
that's
like
I
they
think that's
love
what
it.
they say about the bouncing, the
Mm,
bouncing, it makes them more aware of their body, or like being in water could make them more aware of their body, because
mm,
they're a little bit more desensitized physically, or they can be hypersensitive to certain things that we may not consider,
mm,
although there are neurotypical people too, like the sensations of certain clothes and fabrics and things. And they're
mhm.
they're all they're all different in that sense. But I mean, I saw Samantha walk right over a picnic that people had one time, like a blanket on the ground with food on it, and she just walked right over it. I was so embarrassed. Um,
Mm,
but they're not, yeah, or walk right through two people who are close together and talking, like um,
mhm,
things like that. So
mhm,
yeah. Uh, but yeah, as we are now shifting, it'll be interesting to see the adults and what we need as well. I just kind of feel like everybody may benefit from getting on a swing now, even whether you're an adult or a kid, in these
mhm.
next few years, um, just for reorienting our vestibular and proprioceptive systems.
Yeah,
But
good point.
yeah, yeah. And I know this Heather's a physical therapist. I know this is an area
Mhm.
more that they give to the occupational therapist, only because of my kids, I've been through all of that. But you probably have a better understanding than I do of what vestibular and proprioceptive systems are. And they're part of our neurology, in case other people out there listening aren't aware of what that means. They're part of our neurological system. And our eyes now are adjusting and also changing again, not just to see the outer world, but also more discerning eyes, I would say, and also again witnessing, being the witness, and what we see as untruths and distortions that we're um, saying, hey, okay, God, right here. This is where we're going to focus our attention now. Okay, let's bring in those streams that will heal that distortion, whatever that was, or dissipate it, or unravel it to whatever degree is possible in that moment. So I feel like that's a part of what um, it means to be the alchemizer for these changes. As uh, we're alchemically healing distortions, so to speak. So anyway, well, thank you, Heather. We better keep going here. Okay. This is kind of a zoomed out perspective of the universe. I was like, okay, this was maybe 10 days ago or so. Um, I was seeing all this activity going on. So, energy swirling. This is literally, it represents our entire universe. And raw suns, primordial raw suns um, coming online. We talked a little bit about the raw lineage healing, a few times, that masculine sun, SON/SUN principle, because it's almost like we've been in a sector. I'm not sure exactly where. It feels like somewhere about here, where that raw fall of the raw lineage, which means then the masculine principle kind of was distorted, became distorted and aggressive. Maybe it was here, and that's in a sector of the universe, and so that disconnected us from the rest of the universe in a sense. So the healing of that is opening up the entire universe, and these raw suns, to me now, what we call central suns are groups of raw suns that kind of function as one. That's my feeling, that's my sense that I have. So they're starting to come online, and so we're connecting to the entire universe. I think I have more here. Okay. So then the entire universe has to adjust as this is happening. The raw sun's an expression of the masculine principle, which giving us a sense of movement, and the feminine part of the feminine principle is like what maintains kind of a stability, so to speak. And so when the feminine or the mother principle was subjugated or suppressed, then the masculine can become erratic and reckless, because it's a powerful moving force, the raw principle, or that masculine father principle. So the healing of the raw lineage in our sector of the universe is enabling reconnections to sections of the universal matrix. And so now we can feel these primordial breaths and sounds that are pinging and connected to the primordial raw suns. So it was almost like the edges of our universe was vibrating and ringing, and so just for some maybe loud what they were hearing, others maybe lots of different colors and patterns moving, just lots of movement as our universe is harmonizing and opening up to its true, even its true blueprint in a sense. So the first primordial breath, uh, first following, okay, so I think I shared a blog about this first primordial breath. So this would be the first, let's say, exhale that created this universe, and then it split into 8. So so these are the 9, and this is where we get the idea of 9 is the number of completion that started this universe, I think, or the cosmos. I don't know. It's so big. So in the March 15, 2022 live meeting, I kind of talked about this a little bit in more detail at that one. If anybody wants to go back to that one and watch it, I kind of glanced at it as I was preparing for this, but so I'm not sure if everything I said in there is quote accurate. You know, again, my perspective then and now it's just gotten so much bigger. So this is a vision that I got in 11/11/2021. It zapped me in the unicorn point, and I just had to lay down for 20 minutes, and I watched this movie like this. It started with 950 billion years ago, and then I saw this sphere emanating, and then the spheres began to divide, and it divides like the way our fetal cells divide, you know, when our zygote. So we've talked about some this in the past, and presented a dark matter zygote. So it leaves an imprint of its original self and then began to divide. So this breath, even though it kind of divided, this is the origin. The original is still there, and this is the dark matter. And again, since we're the universe, we follow that pattern and how the human is comes to be this form. So that was that. Then, so one reference. This is from the Ascension Dictionary, and if you look up yanas, which Ascension Dictionary is different than Ascension Glossary. Ascension Dictionary is a briefer, they're shorter, and it's by someone else's work. Even although I would say the early work of Ascension Glossary and Ascension Dictionary, there's similarities and overlaps. But Ascension Glossary goes into, you know, way more detail. But anyway, I saw the reference of 950 billion years ago. Somebody had sent me this this link. So if anybody wants to look at that, 950 billion years was a reference, and I was kind of excited that somebody referenced that. I was like, okay, so maybe I wasn't crazy. So these 9 omniversal beings that some of you may have seen the YouTube video on, they are representative of those original 9. So they're an emanation. They don't have faces because they're kind of just sent here. So this is an 8-year. So 9, next year is a 9-year. There's something to do with those original 9 and these, what I just call them as omniversal beings because they just feel like they're vast. Each one of those spheres is, to me, is like a universe in itself. And even though they're like kind of a sound tone or a geometry, they contain a light language. This one is talking to me right now. It create like a seed codes. There's many seed codes in them. I don't feel like they're DNA though. And he says no, not quite DNA. I don't know. Something about RNA. I don't know. I don't know right now. So I'm sure there'll be more coming up later, but these are the 9 representatives, so to speak. And this is part of the planetary healing and why we can shift now. This is an interesting thing. So this is in 2014 when I was in Susie Miller's class. Miss Susie Miller was the woman that I first taken her course to help me connect with Samantha and understand. I was like, oh my gosh, finally I found somebody who understands what I'm trying to express here. So this was, there were many visions at that time, but this was one of the things that Samantha showed me. She said she was this figure. She was one of these black figures like this, and looked like a ghost or something. I was like, what in the world is that? So it's coming up again. So 10 years later now, I'm finally understanding what she was showing me. So this is it's not like a quote, like a being in like a sheet or something. It's a pulse. It's a pulse of the breath. And I don't know what that means in a sense right now. There's the out breath, there's the exhale, but now this is kind of the pulse of a breath. Anyway, there were 5, when it got to these 5 pulses of this breath, and they got together, they each contributed their essence somehow, because I mean these are conscious. I feel like they're the first micro consciousness units of source. So like a macro consciousness unit in a sense would be like a soul. And so they're also micro consciousness units. So they contributed their essence, and interesting, there's 5, and this makes like a pentagram. Why, I'm not sure right now, but it kind of makes a pentagram. So I'm sure we'll be working with this more at another time, and how the 5 is related to our shape as a pentagram. But for today, this is what I have. So these first pulses, for lack of a better term, led to the creation of the quantum field as we call it today. And it's more like a quantum, which is the pre state of quantum. So it's before quantum. Quantum is what I was guided to call it. And I saw that I talked about that a couple of years ago as well, but I didn't bring anything in. So the 0 and the quantum field. This is where things get a little bit more kind of interesting consciously. We're trying to process this with our mental mind. So I know that the 0, right? It's been talked about in other spiritual kind of communities. We can refer to it as 0 point, right? Pure potential. And that's probably more the correct interpretation. So when we think of the quantum field, or just 0, let's talk about this first. The 0 also is referred to in our world as in mathematics and our number system, meaning that it has no value. It's like a placeholder. I watched a couple of YouTube videos about 0, and there is a series about it. Mathematicians talk about it, that they didn't always have a 0, and it changed mathematics. It did assist in mathematics to another level, because now they had a way of putting a placeholder in, so you could have tens and hundreds and thousands. But when we have assigned it like it has no value, then we kind of run into some other, we've run into some other issues. Oh, sorry, Heather. Yeah, I'm just seeing this now. About the 9 are helping correct some of the RNA, DNA damage of the past years. I feel like it in combination with how we're accessing now this quantum field, because right, we are literally made out of quantum, I don't know, for lack of a better term, quantum matter, you know. Uh, that's what we're kind of doing, and the combination of this awareness of zero quantum field, pure potential, and what this 9 is saying about the RNA just now. I'm sure we'll get more on it later. But I do feel like we're going to see more healing than we realize. So, yeah, so we'll get more, talk about that a little bit more as we go here. So within the 0, there is randomness and chaos that constantly is in flux. Like this is a natural state. Randomness and chaos is like a natural state, especially chaos. It's not, quote, like a bad thing. This is how the quantum field operates. Um, so the issue we've had with interpreting 0 with mathematics is that we've assigned it a value, meaning that something has no value, that it's not important. We assign it as also being worthless, you know? So like even this idea of you have $0 in your bank account, so that means you're poor. Now you're poor. You have nothing. Uh, oh, okay, that's cool. So Kim G was talking about the 9 beings, call them the celestials being active right now. Also, she was saying recently that the prior 010101 has changed and it's just 0 now. Okay, that's cool. I like that. Yeah, I'm glad. It's so awesome when you get confirmation from somebody else, you know, because you don't want to sound like you're the only one out there saying something crazy. Okay, I like that. Thank you. Yeah, and so this changes the idea. You know, we have like people, you're dirt poor, you know, and so now you're worthless. It's a as we begin to change our consciousness, it's like, what? How can that even be? You know, Samantha and the other autists have said there's no such thing as the concept of worthy or unworthy in creation, deserving and undeserving. There's no such concept. It wasn't created by God. You know, it wasn't created by Source. So to say that then whatever material thing you have has no value, it's now worthless, so just throw it out and get a new one. I mean, it's like, wait, you know, when you start thinking about it in terms of it has quantum value. It we pulled it out of the quantum field, we made this thing. How could it not have any value? You know, like your car depreciating. What do you mean it's depreciating? You know, and then it goes to 0. It when you start to think about it in those terms, uh, that this idea of 0 means like it's worthless, and we apply it to things that we've created and to people, it's a problem. And that somebody could be poor because they have no money, they have $0. So this is what's going to start to change, and that's why Samantha was saying like misused, and it's been manipulated as a form of control. It's another way of controlling. Uh, so the awareness of the birth of the quantum field in our world changes the foundation in which we exist, because it's the fabric of matter, right? And even if people aren't aware of this, that we're accessing it like this, just bringing that consciousness here as a foundation begins to change that idea of having value or no value right there, right? It says because we have direct access to the very substances to create everything we quote need. And yes, this has always been the case, but there's been manipulation. There's been black magic grids. I felt it. That's been over the quantum field, so that we can't quite access the quantum field like we're supposed to, and really know about it and understand it. So uh, it brings a lot of deeper level of understanding and awareness to how we create. Okay, um, so zero equals abundance because the pure potentials exist in randomness and chaos. Chaos implying that these substances or pulses can become anything in our matter world. And randomness implies there are probability waves that is the very nature of randomness, thus enabling these waves to collapse into a material form. And so thus the different awareness of zero will enable us to feel abundance because we will feel that we have access to create what we require for this physical life. Like it's easy. It's right there. It's right under our nose, like we can smell it, we can feel it, is the idea. So then the one, if we see it as drawing from this zero of pure potential, that we're bringing it into form, and because we have direct access to it, we will only feel drawn to access or create what we need. Like it kind of, the idea, this feeling of having to hoard kind of relaxes because I can draw from it anytime, so why do I need to, overuse, right? Yeah, we won't feel a need to overproduce, keep making things. And that if we value what we have already created and use our ingenuity, which we should be, and we're kind of moving in that direction of recycling things, repurposing things, of course we can, they tell us, well, it costs more to melt that thing down than to get a new one. It's cheaper to just buy a new one, That's because the labor is cheap. We pay the people dirt poor wages in some other country, not giving them a better standard of living, so to speak, in our system. So that's why we say it's cheap, because we say those humans are, cheap labor from those humans. So it becomes an entangled web, as those of you listening understand. And this will look like magic to us because things manifesting more quickly. So meaning that in higher vibration, right, time is related to frequency. Manifestation of material things is related to time and how quickly those frequencies become matter. Does that make sense? So time is related to manifestation because it's about things manifesting quicker. So that's why in higher dimensional realms, things appear because they're vibrating higher. Well, now we're vibrating higher. We're on a higher platform. And so this is one of the reasons why we see time moving faster. Things seem to be moving faster. 6 months feels like a year, We're seeing truths being revealed since 2020 faster than we would have expected it. I think the archons on the planet were hoping that, you know, um, they had plenty of time before people would realize what was actually going on, right? Oh, it'll be 10 years, it'll be 20 years. Oh, can we release those documents in 75 years? Don't we have 75 years to release that? So time is moving faster already. And so now with this access to the quantum field, things are going to look And I think I hear a lot of the kids are talking about magic, things manifesting a lot faster. So zero applied to all areas. When consciousness of zero permeates through all areas of our lives, through like math, digital technology, artificial intelligence, uh, especially artificial intelligence, right? And we talk about digital dollars. Uh, it will and is changing the material technology in our world. Yeah, imagine what this can do to artificial intelligence. I mean, I don't know, but it's not going to go the way they think it's going to go, is my feeling. So at a planetary consciousness level, it's another level of consciousness expansion opening up now and will deeply influence our behaviors. So those who attempt to control human behavior will not understand why their influences no longer have the same effect and why their attempts to manifest certain outcomes will not materialize in the way they planned. This will also facilitate our thinking patterns, our thinking in terms of oneness and wholeness. It will influence how we see atoms and our DNA. So in particular, our atoms, trying to break it down into electrons, neutrons, protons, and then subatomic particles. There's something about seeing the atom in its wholeness and our perception of it that's going to change. I'm getting the word atomic physics. They're not even calling it quantum mechanics. Saying atomic physics. I don't know. Atomic physics is a better word, is what I'm getting right now. And so even our DNA, right? Because our DNA was, my understanding is it was unfolded. It comes more like in a bundle. And I don't know, from the little that I could understand, I was reading that they've been working on that since like the mid 1800s, mid 1850 something or something. And then I've read that even Watson and Crick that got credit for unraveling the DNA so that we could see its double helix and spiral pattern, that they actually stole it from something else. That's what I read. I don't know. I didn't do like in-depth research or just perusing. But the DNA is actually in a bundle, like, and when we think of it in that bundle as a wholeness, what I was seeing, and I'm not sure how accurate it is, but I was seeing it like a sphere, and like it's lacy inside that DNA, because the genes that are on that DNA, and I think I've been saying it backwards. So genes are sections of DNA is the definition. I think I was saying it backwards. But so when you look at it as a grouping, that the genes are actually have a multidimensional purpose, and they communicate in multidimensional ways, and so then they're expressed in our bodies that way. So right now what I'm getting is I feel it saying in that wholeness is what the bundle, seeing the bundle as more of a sphere and as a wholeness, is what will facilitate the multidimensional human evolution. So I just asked her, then if we, by unraveling it and by manipulating genes within the ladder, uh, is that how they attempt to keep us in a 3D pattern? And she said yes. So we really should be seeing it as in its wholeness and oneness and how it functions. So sure, we'll hear more about that another time. Okay, so as a soul identity in collaboration with the earth, since again the earth is created to host all these different star seeds, which completes the DNA, which completes completes the DNA. What am I trying to say? The seeding, the genetic seeding of the human, um, will master how to work with the quantum field to co-create, because it's the soul that the soul intelligence that draws from the quantum field and then can manifest the physical. So this is where we'll see things happening almost like magic, and healings, people healing. Okay, it looks like we're about ready to get into the meditation. So before I start the meditation, anybody have any final words or thoughts? No? Okay. So in the meditation, we're going to be using this crown of forgiveness, and I feel like it's a little different than mercy. So it's to help us heal our shadows, um, even at the galactic levels, that our galactic lives as well. We may have played those other roles and those parts in the galactic realms. So it's to be able to bring all of our galactic identities together into this human identity. And there are powerful streams of forgiveness coming from that first emanation in sound tones, to help with that. And also this emptied diamond is like, there's like a process of emptying out our old patterns, our old self, particular human self, and then seeding it with the new human, or yeah, so activating some of the DNA. So if you're ready, and we'll have these two images to support the process. Thank you to the earth and all of nature and all of its creatures for supporting us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is.